Hello Nevers and Evers, and welcome back to Nerd Doc. In this video we're going to discuss the ending and main plot points for The School for Good and Evil, what we may see in a potential sequel, and how the movie differs from the original book. There will be spoilers for The School for Good and Evil. This is your spoiler warning. This video also has chapter timestamps so you can jump around as you wish, and if you have any questions about our explanations or we missed anything, leave a comment below and we'll respond as best we can. The movie primarily focuses on Sophie and Agatha, best friends who live in the town of Gavaldon. There are long-lost tales of a school for good and evil, where characters from fairy tales learn to be good or evil depending on which part of the school they attend. Sophie has always dreamed of being a princess, while Agatha is constantly called a witch. When Sophie makes a wish to go to the school, her wish is granted and both her and Agatha are taken to the School for Good and Evil. Unfortunately, Sophie, the presumed princess, is dropped into the School for Evil, while Agatha, the presumed witch, is dropped into the School for Good. At first, Sophie tries to change schools, being told she will need a kiss from her true love, while Agatha just wants the two of them to go back home. Eventually, Sophie embraces her darker, more selfish side that's always existed within her, while Agatha accepts being a princess and the powers that come with that, all while still trying to help Sophie kiss her true love and get the two of them back home. Sophie initially believes her true love is the son of King Arthur, Tedros. Before we dive into the ending, first we need to go back to the very beginning. The School for Good and Evil was created by twin brothers Rafal and Rian to balance the forces of good and evil in the fairy tale realm. Humans in the real world are known as readers because they read fairy tales. And when these tales are read, it influences young children, helping to teach them right from wrong. If the balance were to be lost and evil took over, it would impact the human world by causing more people to become evil. Back in the fairy tale world, Rafal represents the evil side, with Rian representing the good. The two eventually ended up fighting, and Rafal killed his brother. Hundreds of years later, Rafal has hidden his identity and taken on the form of Lawrence Fishburne to become the headmaster of the school. Throughout the movie, Rafal appears to Sophie in his original form, while he corrupts her mind to become more and more evil. This is all a plan by Rafal to destroy the School for Good and Evil once and for all in order to make room for true evil, which is much more evil than the fairy tale evil the school teaches. Rafal needed Sophie's power in order to finally destroy the School for Good and Evil to allow true evil to reign supreme. While he claims he needed true love's kiss, this is not entirely true. What he actually needed was someone evil to obtain true love, which is usually shown in the form of a kiss. Sophie was already harboring a tremendous amount of untapped power that Rafal yearned for. All he had to do was convince her that she loved him, and that power would be his to control, to rule over all, unlocking his true potential. We're just going to ignore the age gap and the grooming and all of that, because this is all supposed to be fairy tales from long ago when none of that was against the law. Anyway, upon corrupting Sophie into believing Rafal was her true love, and confirming that with a kiss, Rafal gained tremendous power and the school instantly began to crumble. When Sophie jumps in front of Agatha and is stabbed by the Storian, she realizes that Rafal wasn't her true love and proves that she is actually good. At least in a way. While Rafal still retains much of the power he gained from the bond with Sophie, the spell is essentially broken as the school begins to rebuild. As Agatha cries over Sophie's lifeless body, her tears represent her wish for Sophie to come back to life. This triggers Agatha's powers, which are actually explained much better in the book, which we'll get to in a moment, and Agatha does in fact bring Sophie back to life. This act unites the schools and allows Sophie and Agatha to go back home, despite Agatha and King Arthur's son Tedros falling in love. At the very end of the movie, we see Tedros' arrow pierce the void between the two worlds, followed by a dagger. As long as the prince is pure of heart, their arrow will fly straight. Tedros loved Agatha so much that his arrow was able to fly straight into her world. Meanwhile, the dagger belongs to Rafal. It's the same one he used to kill his brother and the one he was about to use to kill Tedros before the girls intervened. Rafal's dagger appearing here proves that he's still alive. A secondary outcome of the ending is that it changes the dynamic of the traditional fairy tale. While there are exceptions, for the most part the men always save the women. At the end of the School for Good and Evil, it's the women who save the day. Taking that a step further, Prince Tedros not only ignores logic and Agatha's pleas when he attacks Sophie and initiates the school swap, which is a nod to the second book, but he also fails to save them from Rafal, causing Sophie and Agatha to instead save Tedros and the entire school. Now the film is quite a bit different from the book, and this was intentional. While a good number of people would prefer to have seen the source material played out in live action, the author of the book series, Soman Chinani, didn't want the movie to be a quote-unquote boring old retread of the book, instead hoping that the movie would bring forth the spirit of the book while going to different places and offering surprises to audiences familiar with the book. Marvel has a similar outlook, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe films still capture the source material pretty well, despite being quite different in some regards. The School for Good and Evil almost feels like a completely different story in many ways. For instance, in the novel, 2 children are taken every 4 years. It's a regular thing. However, in the movie, it's only happened once before. Agatha was also very ugly in the book, then as she spends more time at the School for Good, she gradually becomes more and more attractive. In the movie, her clothes change, but that's about it. And her clothing isn't really even ugly in the beginning of the film. It's just not a big gown. Agatha's power in the books is the ability to hear and grant wishes. This is touched upon in the movie, but it's never clearly presented as a specific power of Agatha's, more so a general power that she just happens to be good at. The students spend more time in classes in the book, with the teachers playing a bigger role, somewhat similar to the Harry Potter series, and Sophie's turn to evil is much more methodical. There are some other minor changes, such as the trial by tale featuring the top 10 students instead of just Sophie and Tedros. In addition, the Storian is a bit different, and the story between the headmaster, his brother, and the Storian was also changed in the movie. In the original novel, the ghost of Rian, the dead brother, still lingers around the school and even saves the students before one of the professors sacrifices themselves to stop the evil headmaster. Same general concept, but it plays out very differently between the book and the film. The book also ends before the Evers snowball, instead of the ball taking place before the big finale like it does in the movie. When it comes to a potential sequel, while Netflix has not confirmed anything as of October 2022, there are 6 main novels in the book series. If there is a sequel, it will likely hit all the main plot points of the second novel, titled A World Without Princes, while changing some of the details similar to the changes from the first novel to the movie. The second book sees Agatha and Sophie head back to the School for Good and Evil, but things have changed. The School for Good is now the School for Girls, while the School for Evil has changed to the School for Boys. Instead of the girls all being princesses, they're now warrior women, thanks in part to the brave actions of Agatha and Sophie at the end of the first book. Sophie uses her magic to disguise herself as a boy and sneak into the School for Boys, becoming very close with Tedros. In the end, Sophie loses everything, but the ghost of the good headmaster saves the day again. We won't spoil all the details here, but the ending of the second book is actually somewhat similar to the end of the first movie, so it should be interesting to see how they change things if a second movie is made. So what did you think of The School for Good and Evil? Was it as good as the book? Are you looking forward to a potential sequel? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves both good and evil.